Kia ora anō, councillors and a few submitters I've already seen so far today. Thank you for joining us once again. Welcome to today's Traffic Resolutions Hearing Panel meeting, and I'll open with a karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tarasara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora. Please let me or the Democracy Advisor know if you intend to leave the meeting. First, I need to ask for any apologies. I haven't received any apologies. Hayley, have you received any apologies?
I have not, although Councillor Wolf is a member of this panel and is missing. So potentially he might be a bit late.
All right, shall we accept some apologies for Councillor Wolf for lateness? Can I have a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Free. If you could all vote in the usual way.
Just waiting on Councillor Rush and Councillor Young.
I don't have a vote.
Oh, it's Councillor Young, not a member of this.
No, I'm just.
Sorry, apologies.
So excited, and I want
We're so happy to have you, Councillor Young.
Councillor Wolf is also joining us right now if you'd like to wait a second.
Okay, and then we don't have to vote on his apologies.
I better take my vote down.
All right, so since we're not voting on apologies, I'll move on to conflict of interest declarations. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare? I don't see any. There are no items not on the agenda, which takes us straight into our general business. I just wanted to start by reminding everyone this is that the decision about the broader part of the Cobham project is not our decision. It's being made by Waka Kotahi. And I understand a decision has been made and Waka Kotahi will announce that decision in due course. They were meeting about that this morning. So this is just a reminder that the Wellington City Council decision is quite limited, that we're looking at lowering the speed limit on a small piece of local road that is between Cobham Drive and the Miramar Cutting. And I will be asking public participants to restrict their remarks more or less to that small section of road if possible. That would be appreciated. We're really glad to have you here, Alan, again. Kia ora anō, and please, over to you.
Kia ora koutou. So ko Ellen Blake ho, ko kaituitoia whanganui tara kia Living Streets Aotearoa, the National Pedestrian Advocacy Group. I've got a very short presentation to share if somebody can let me do that.
It should let you do that if you give it a go.
Okay, good. I want to go and try. Here we go, hopefully. So hopefully everybody can see that now and it's going into the right view. There we go. So I just like to say, to start with, Living Streets totally supports safer speeds in Wellington. So I think you all get why safer speeds are better, and I just wanted to really reinforce some of those messages around why speed matters. Yep, there we go. So overall, we're aiming at what we call low traffic or super block or healthy street sort of neighbourhoods that are just nicer places to live in. So they're more pleasant. Safer speeds are the first step to achieving this. So this is a really important decision you're making. It might feel like a tiny bit of this big project, but it's a really important decision. And the question basically is, what is an acceptable speed in this area? So these, as well as the speed, then we move, after you've done all of that, it needs to move into some sort of design features so that every road user knows how fast you're supposed to be going in this place, and it feels right to go slower or faster depending on where you are. And it's called traffic calming or self-explaining roads. So there's a whole lot of stuff around that. So that's the big picture. And as we just heard, this is the overall project. And there's a teeny bit that the council has to make a decision on. And you'll notice that there's about 2.2 kilometres that are 60 kilometres an hour. I'm not sure why 60 was chosen, but it was. And then there's the 50 kilometres at either end. So 50 kilometres an hour is the Wellington standard urban speed. But as we know, that 30 kilometres an hour is actually the safest acceptable speed for pedestrians. And this rather odd looking diagram shows that at 30 kilometres an hour, you've got about a 10% chance of being killed if you're hit by a vehicle. So 10%, so your decision here is at 30, 10% is an acceptable speed. You're prepared to have 10% death rate. At 60 kilometres an hour, if you wiggle along there, it gets up more around 40%. So at 60 kilometres an hour, a pedestrian has about a 40% chance of being killed if they're hit by a vehicle, and a higher chance of having a serious injury. Now, these sort of graphs, there's a little bit of debate, quite robust debate about what the exact number is. So here's another little one that shows a slightly different interpretation, but it's the same. At 30 kilometres an hour, it's about 10% of being fatally killed, and at 50, this one says it's an 85% likelihood of pedestrian or cyclist fatality. So there's a little bit of debate around that. So the decision is, what is the acceptable speed here? And Living Streets would like to say that it should be 50 kilometres an hour, which is already too fast, but that would create a consistent speed environment within neighbourhoods and suburbs. It's much easier for people to understand what they do. You don't change between 50 to 60 and then back to 50. You people as drivers probably know how tricky it is. We already know that the inner city's been made 30 kilometres an hour, and even when I occasionally drive in town, I find it quite hard to figure out how fast I'm supposed to go, because you're moving from one speed environment to another, and there's nothing really to tell you how fast you should go. So I think it's really important to recognise that, and I strongly suggest that 50 kilometres an hour is the speed that you go for. And if this works, there's a cool little graphic that shows what people see when they're driving along at these different speeds. So if this works, we'll have a little, here we go. So the faster you go, the less you see. This is why the higher speeds are less safe. At higher speeds, you're missing those people standing on the side of the road, you're missing the cyclists, you're missing everybody out of your peripheral vision. You just don't see them because you're going too fast. And I'd probably stop it round about there. There's some other things about how much space you need to stop and things like that, which, there's a lot of detail around the speed environment. It's a very well understood part of the road environment about what you do. So I strongly support this safer speed that you're about to decide on, and I would strongly recommend, and Living Streets recommends, that it's a 50 kilometres an hour zone. So I'll just stop there. Thank you. I'll try and unshare my screen again.
Thank you, Alan. Councillors, I see a question from Councillor Rush.
Yes. Hi, Alan. Happy New Year. I didn't see a video pop up there, so I missed whatever you were showing. But anyway, is there any evidence that pedestrians have been hit by cars or have walked in front of cars to be hit in this particular section?
I think you'll hear from, I know Mike Mello walks this route very regularly. People walk this route all the time. People want to cross the road. If you're coming through from Miramar and you're on that southern side of the road, there isn't really any good places to cross. There's a little crossing point with I think a little island in the middle or something like that. It's very difficult to cross because it's very big, wide road. Yeah, it's difficult. The whole Cobham Drive is a very difficult place to cross, and yet people do it all the time. People are out there crossing that road all the time. It needs to be safer. And obviously, you know that somebody died there a few years back, a bit further along.
Well, that was a bit further on past the roundabout, which is not what we're talking about. But there are pedestrian crossings a bit further up towards Miramar, isn't there?
Oh, you've got to go quite a long way. You've got to go right round the corner, and I think it's past the first roundabout you've got to before you hit a pedestrian crossing. And there's nothing along the airport. There's nothing until you get to Evans Bay going the other way. It's a very poor pedestrian infrastructure.
Yeah.
But highly used, and the better it gets, the more people will be walking there.
So do you think we should put a pedestrian crossing in?
I think we need a whole lot more. Yep, definitely.
Okay, thanks.
That's not on the agenda today. So yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Rush. Do I have any other questions from councillors for Alan? Doesn't look like it. As always, Alan, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate seeing you. Heidi, next on my list I have Patrick Morgan, but I can't see him in the room. Is Patrick with
He's
us?
here. He just doesn't have his video on.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing Patrick very shortly. There you are. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon, everyone. Give me a wave if you can hear me.
Yay.
Thank you. Good to see you all. I'll keep the presentation short. Overall, you won't be surprised to hear strong support from Cycling Action for this proposed change to lower the speed limit on the City Council part of the road. We know that speed is a factor in every crash. It affects both the likelihood and the consequences of a crash. You really can't argue, excuse me, with science. This change should be consistent with a whole bunch of City Council policy around prioritising safety, around the kind of city we want to be in. You know, we have Waka Kotahi, our good friends there, have a share of the streets in our city on the highway. We can't directly affect their decisions through this process, but clearly speeds need to come down on these streets to meet our goals for a livable Wellington. I guess I'll take questions at this point.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Councillors, do we have questions for Patrick? No, it's been a long day in hearings, Patrick. People seem to be. Oh, there we go. Councillor Rush. He's not out of questions yet.
I guess I'm just, you know, it's not a big change in speed. And what's the likelihood of proper enforcement of this? I mean, you're probably the wrong person, Patrick, but I wanted to fill the void, but if you've got an opinion on that, then I'll be pleased to hear it.
Sure. I mean, enforcement is certainly something that can be improved on our streets. Luckily, we have a lot better tools available now with automated speed detection. So this is, you know, enforcement staff can't be everywhere. So I think there's probably more use we can make of signals that detect speed to enforce those limits. We know that enforcement is a deterrent to behaviour, otherwise your good staff wouldn't be out there at Parliament today, and good on them. I think we need to be smart about using the tools that are available to keep the streets the way we want them to be.
Thank you, Patrick. Any further questions, councillors? I see some thumbs up. Everybody's happy. Patrick, was there anything else you'd like to say before?
No, I mean, I'll keep myself on topic on this occasion, okay. But we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
It was nice to see you.
Thank you, everyone, and kia kaha.
Kia ora. Heidi, next on my list I have Mike Mellor, who I'm pretty sure I saw earlier. Yes, there's Mike. Kia ora, Mike.
Kia ora, councillors. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to endorse everything that both Eleanor and Patrick said. It makes eminent sense. But I'd like to take a slightly different tack on this. According to the consultation that came out, however long it was ago, that referred to the land transport rules setting a speed limit, which says that the minimum length for a 50 or 60 speed limit is 500 metres, and that the point at which a speed limit changes must be at or close to a point of obvious change in the roadside development or the road environment. So what we're really saying is that the choice of speed limit here is between 50 that comes through the cutting, or between 60 or 70 or whatever NZTA is going to select for Cobham Drive, and that must be at an obvious point. Now, currently it isn't. It's in the middle of a road that doesn't change either side. So, and the only obvious point there is the roundabout or the approaches to the roundabout. So that's where the speed limit change should be. Going back to that consultation, it said about Cobham Drive, that Cobham Drive had a limited access along the section and that it was median separated. Now, that was supposed to be a consultation on both the NZTA bits and the City Council bits, and the City Council bits got completely ignored. So any submissions may have been misled by that, that we were talking about a fast road, when actually Cobham Drive, the City Council bit, has parking along one side. It has a lot of people stopping to take pictures of the Wellington Blown Away sign. It has an industrial access to the cable drums on the other side. So it's not the road that Let's Get Moving described. There is a sort of crossing in the middle that was primarily designed for cyclists, an island in the middle. I'm not aware of any particular issues with people crossing here, largely because it's not a very easy place to cross, even with that island in place. And it's also a very short stretch of road. I mean, you take any particular short stretch of road and you're likely to have no incidents whatsoever. Because it's just a fraction of the thousands of kilometres that are existing on the road network. So I endorse both Patrick and Ellen in saying 50 kilometres is really the only sensible thing you can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And I see questions from Deputy Mayor Free, and then following that, Councillor Rush.
Thanks, Mike. I just wonder if you can comment on the environment from a point of view of a pedestrian trying to cross that road. And we can talk about the whole stretch. We can talk about the City Council stretch and the Wakakotahi stretch if we wanted to.
Well, the chair has set the rules that we're talking about the City Council bit, not about the Wakakotahi bit, where the Wakakotahi bit is awful to cross. I mean, I do it frequently, and I quite often wonder if it's the last time I'm doing it. The City Council bit is easier, but it's not good. It's got the blind bend coming round from the cutting. You've got to cross the cycle lane first, and then the two wide lanes there for traffic, where it's not going slowly, and traffic comes off the roundabout fast. And the speed limit changes in the middle of it. And we all know that people don't reduce to 50 precisely at where a 50 sign changes. So I think that it should be changed so that the speed limit changes at the exit from the roundabout. So it gives people notice that they are actually in 50 zone rather than in a 70 or perhaps 60 zone.
Mm. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Rush.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, you're a member of the community out there. So has this idea been brought to the City Council by the residents associations, the business investment district groups, and the folks that are resident out there and use this particular part of Cobham Drive, or has it come from our authorities?
I think this particular stretch of road has been largely ignored because people have been focusing on the main bit of Cobham Drive, which has a much higher use and much obvious bigger issues. And this is, if I can put it in a way, a bit of a sideshow. It's getting more heavily used by walkers and cyclists with the Cobham Drive. And the number of cyclists anecdotally has increased quite significantly. And I've seen a lot more cyclists and a lot more walkers along there. So most of them will be proceeding along the City Council bit of Cobham Drive, given that it's very difficult to cross to get onto Calabar Road. So it's an issue which is not high on the agenda because people haven't thought about it. But people thinking about it would, I think, say that 50 is the obvious limit to be here, and 70 is for what is a relatively ordinary urban street with parking and accesses would be over the top. And as we see, NZT is proposing to reduce the limit along whatever the road, I've forgotten the name of the road, coming down from the tunnel to Wellington Road to 50 because of those sorts of features on that road.
Okay, well, thanks for answering. Cheers.
Thanks, councillors. Were there any further questions for Mike? Don't see any. Thanks, Mike, so much. It's really great to hear your experiences of actually using and crossing that road as well. It's really valuable to us. So thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon.
Thank you.
The next person that I have who's here is Andrew Shan. So Andrew, would you be able to join us next? And
I'm right here.
lovely. Are you able to turn your camera on?
Now, what have I got to do here? Start my video. Is that what I hit?
Yes. Perfect. There you are.
Right.
Thanks for joining us, Andrew. It's over to you to give us your thoughts about this small piece of road and whether we should be lowering the speed limit here. I'll let you know when you've got 1 minute to go.
Okay, well, I don't think I'll even be taking up much more than that. Basically, I'm a cab driver in the capital. I've actually got no problem with the lowering of the speed limit from the Calabar Road, Cobham intersection round to the Miramar cutting, because I mean, in fact, to be honest, I wasn't even aware that was 70 as it is. So if they're looking at dropping that to 60, aren't they? I see. Yeah,
that's correct.
sorry.
Yes, NZTA is looking at changing some of those speed limits to 60.
Yeah. Well, basically, I've got no problem around, around that area from that roundabout round to the cutting. What I do have an enormous concern with, and so do many other people, which is outside the scope of today's hearing, is of course the dropping of the speed limit along Cobham Drive and the proposed crossing, which I have enormous issues with, but I guess I can't digress onto that. But basically, in that short stretch of road, I don't think dropping the speed limit's going to make a lot of difference, especially to the traffic going around there, because I don't believe a lot of cars would even get up to 70 k's going around there, because it's not exactly a straight bit of road. But again, going back to the Cobham Drive part of it, yes, I do have issues. So that's about all I can really say about that.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate that. It's good to hear that you think the local road that you don't have an issue, but some of the changes on the more major road you're concerned. Do we have any councillors with questions for Andrew about the local road? I don't see any. Do you drive through there often, Andrew? Do you ever, like you stated, that you don't really see people going particularly fast on that small section of road?
Well,
anyway?
no, I mean, sometimes, because of COVID, we're red light. I've been off the road for quite a while. We've been hit very hard. Sometimes I go around there a few times a week. Sometimes, like now, I haven't been there for weeks. I mean, there's just no pattern of knowing. So yeah, just take it as it comes. But as I say, dropping at that particular area, that's my own opinion. I don't know what my colleagues might think, but myself, I've got no issue with just that short stretch of road. It's the Cobham Drive where I have the major problem with.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate you sharing that view.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions? All right. I don't see any. Thank you, Andrew, for taking the time out of your afternoon to join us. I really appreciate you joining us.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll see you again sometime. Now,
yep.
Heidi, do we have anybody else in the room who's on our list?
We don't currently have anyone in the room, no.
Okay. Because Tanya I'm hoping that Tanya will be joining us. We haven't heard from her that she's not, and we do have an NZSL interpreter booked for her. I'm going to suggest that we just take a 5-minute break. So if you need to go and get a drink or something, we come back at 15:15 and just give that a little bit longer just to see if Tanya is able to join us. So if you can come back at 15:15, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Our NZSL interpreter, Fiona, has another job booked after this, so we can't wait indefinitely Hi, Fiona. I think you said you had another job booked at 4:25. Was that right? Yes. Okay.
I've got another. I'm booked here till 4:30, and then I have to go to another job. But I'll stay on the line till 4:30 in case that changes for you.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. We haven't heard from Tanya. We've Hades tried to reach her. We could wait another 5 minutes, councillors, if you would prefer to do that. Kind of.
How are we going with the timing for our translator? Can we?
Well, as Fiona said, she can stay on the line until 4:30, but probably, then has another job. So we've got potentially a few more minutes, but
I would suggest we do give it. I would suggest we do give it 5 more minutes.
all right.
What time was she scheduled to come?
4:15 according to my run sheet.
Oh, okay. So
just right now.
She's only a minute late. Okay.
All right. Let's. I'll get just so that you don't all have to sit at your computers. Let's call another 5 minute break. And then if Tanya's joined us within that time, then she'll still have enough time to speak prior to Fiona having to go off to her other appointment. If in 5 minutes time, then we're going to run out of time anyway. So I'll give you another 5 minutes to just turn your screens off and go do some email or something. And we'll come back at 20 past, a bit past then. Kia ora, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I know it's been a long day, so it's appreciated. Sadly, it doesn't look like Tanya is going to be joining us, which is unfortunate, but of course, she will have made a written submission, which we will be able to go back and read as well. So that's a small consolation. We can make sure that we can at least catch up with what she wanted to share with us. At this point, I am going to move on to the final part of the meeting, which is to formally introduce the report. Heidi, I'm going to hand over to you to introduce the report.
I'll just take it as read, thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Does anyone have any questions for Heidi before we move on to debate? I don't think so. I'm happy to move the motion. Is there a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Matthews. Is there any debate? Okay, so we're just thanking the submitters for joining us today. Please go ahead and vote in the usual way.
And that's 7 votes in favour, carried unanimously.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks, everyone. I am going to declare this meeting closed now. I will say the karakia before we finish up. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia ki te urutapu nui. Kia wātea, kia mama, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua. I te ara takatū. Koia rā e rongo, whakairia aki ke runga. Kia wātea, ai rā.